Hello everybody. Today I would like to talk about cutting power and how do I analyze from my cutting footage that which sword did better and which sword did not so good. How do I investigate the cutting power the phenomena? So in the first place, we have to define what is cutting power. Cutting power is the speed of the sword penetrating going through the target. It is defined as the speed through the target. And the cutting resistance will be the speed loss during the penetration through the target. So you see, the more cutting power you have, the higher speed you go through the target, usually you will have less cutting resistance felt in the hand because there should be less speed loss during the target. Now, everything we know about a sword that contributes to cutting power is actually related to the definition, the speed through the target. Such as the geometry of the edge. Now, what I show here is the edge cross section at the cutting spot, not at the base of the blade, but closer to the tip. This one is Snowflake, a custom nodachi that I have made for myself, and the bottom one is a commonly available katana in Longchuan called Nightingale 2nd edition. You can tell that the Snowflake is of a more acute, thinner geometry, substantially thinner than the Nightingale 2 here, right? And this contributes to a faster speed through the target. So what we know about the sharpness is actually related to the cutting power in the way that it goes through the target faster and lose less speed inside the target. In the normal katana case here, at the bottom, it will lose a lot of power or let's say a lot of speed inside the target when it goes through the target. So this is what we call geometry acuteness or sharpness. Now, not only does this angle matter, not only does the edge apex angle matter, the edge apex angle determines whether the edge will hold against a bony target, a target with a hard core. You can make a very acute apex here to cut soft targets extremely well, like the tatami or pool noodle or bottles, but only to have it suffered in edge damage in case you hit something considered realistic hard, like a living bone hardness. It will get dent. So the apex area will have to consider whether it holds against a bony target, and also what is behind the apex. This part is also extremely important about how much speed you are going to lose inside a substantial target. Now, if you are cutting a soft target, it matters less because the softer the target, the easier you can displace it sideways when the blade goes through the target. You can easier to push it aside if it is a soft target. So the thicker edge, the thicker geometry here will have less problem when facing a soft target than facing a hard target. When facing a hard target, you will have hard time to push the target apart, right? So the geometry becomes a lot more sensitive to the hard target. However, you cannot, as I mentioned before, you cannot have an apex that cannot hold against the hard target, but you will have to have a thin geometry to go through hard target smoothly. Also, the part behind the slope, this part is also important. How thick this is, also affects how much resistance or the loss of speed you will feel. You will feel inside the target. And this is a katan, a nodachi, or you can say Japanese style geometry. We can have a look on long ship swords. This one. Now this one. We can close this one and see this one. This one, the top one, is the same custom nodachi that I made for myself. You can tell from the edge that from the cross section that it is quite acute. But compare it to all those long ship below, you will see that the Japanese style cross section is still pretty thick compared to the long ship little cutie da, the ribbon Naginata, the giant Sylvia, and the divider. And this one, the last one, is another Japanese style blade. You can see that it has a thick backward here with an acute geometry here. And the long ship doesn't follow that. The long ship is different. So when I design my swords like Supreme Kata and the German battle sword, the Red Baron and the Blue Baron, I take into consideration of all these details and how to form the apex, how to form the edge plane, and how to form the behind part. And these are all the 3D details that people often do not realize exist. And they often accuse me of my stuff being just katana or Chinese swords rehuted. No, they are not. They are very different. As different as you can see from the custom one and the normal one, or even more so, because my current Supreme Kata is way more extreme than the custom nodachi I made back then. Now another issue I would like to bring is that it is obvious in the video I made that the 3 Supreme Katas have a different speed in hitting the target, right? This speed in hitting the target matters in fighting situation where your opponents will strike back or will defend himself or will move out of the way before you hit. So the speed of hitting the target is important. But you will see something interesting here. Let me show you. Now first, let's play the video. And you will see the compact, being the shortest and lightest, go first. Classic second. Ultra third. It hit the target first. Second, third, right? It looks like this, right? But there is a big but. Let me show you something. I have actually measured their tip speed before hitting the target with Photoshop and measure between the frame they travel, the distance they travel between each frame just before hitting the target. And I draw the arrow to measure the distance they travel. So I get the top speed, you may say the top speed, the tip speed, right before the penetration happens. And interestingly, what you saw in the video, that's the compact hit first, right, has the slowest tip speed here. The purple arrow here is this compact tip speed right before hitting the target. It is the slowest tip speed. The middle one is the classic, which is slightly slower than the red one. The red one travels the most in 1 frame time. This one is the ultra. So just before hitting the target, the ultra actually travels the fastest among the 3. even though it hit the target the slowest. So you may ask, what happened here? This is not making sense. Now let me show you. What happened here is that the acceleration and the top speed is different. Being a lighter sword, the lightest among the three and the shortest among the three, this compass have the less weight away from myself. So when it starts the rotation, it starts the fastest. You can tell the rotation, it goes fastest. Now the rotation starts. It outspeed classic and ultra in the startup phase, the acceleration phase. Thus, it hit the target the soonest. However, after the startup phase, it achieved a top speed and not going any faster than that. The other two swords, the classic and the ultra, while starting up slower, has a faster top speed. They do not have as low a speed ceiling as the compact does. Why? Let me show you the video again. Now, why did the classic and the ultra speed up slower but have faster top speed, right? Because the blade is longer. You can see the classic here is longer than the compact a bit. When you are talking about tip speed, you have to count in how long the blade is. The shorter your blade is, the less distance your tip will travel under the same rotational speed. See, the larger your radius is, the larger the circular circumference will be under each footage frame. So you get a faster top speed, and that is exactly why the ultra, while the rotational acceleration is the slowest, has actually the longest distance traveled on the circumference here, which is the tip speed, right? So this is interesting. Actually, the ultra carries the fastest speed to hit the target with, and the classic a very close second, and the compact actually has the slowest tip speed to hit the target with. What will it affect the outcome, you may ask? Now let me show you. Remember, we defined that the resistance felt during a cut is the speed loss inside the target, and the less speed loss inside the target, the smoother the cut you will feel that, right? Now let's take a look on the compact first. Let's take how many frames it took to go through the target. So I go frame by frame forward now. It hit the target in the next frame. The blade vibrates a bit, so it made an impact, right? This is the first frame. Second frame, not going through the target yet. Third frame, not going through the target yet. Fourth frame, it drags something out and the blade seems to go through most of the target, but the target deformed. Fifth frame, still not completely through. Sixth frame, not yet. Seventh frame, okay, it's cut through the outer layer of the newspaper. Eighth frame, it emerges out of the target. Ninth frame, 10 frames, you can see that there is a significant decrease in the speed after the cut. The tip no longer travels as fast. See, it travels much slower after coming through the target. Let's try again. Pay attention to how far the tip traveled before hitting the target. Pay attention to that, and then hit the target, and then took multiple frames to go through it, and you can see the blades literally slowed down significantly. So that's why the compact when cutting through a monster target with the tip, it will feel a significant impact and resistance during the cut. Not because it hit the target slow, it hit the target the soonest among the three, but the tip speed is relatively slow and it lost a lot of speed inside the target. The reason is because it has less reach and less, you can say, momentum here around the tip. Now let's take a look in another case. How about the classic? I always say the classic is the best cutting one when you are talking about tip cutting on substantial targets. The classic feel the best when cutting the substantial target. Now it's about to hit the target. Hit. Through. See? It takes only 2 frames to go through the target. So it lost much less speed than the compact does. And when it goes through the target, it goes through a lot. It goes through completely through exiting the target. It does lost some speed there, but not as much as compact does. So the cutting feel is very smooth compared to the compact. Now let's take a look on the third case. The Ultra actually has the highest tip speed right before the impact. Remember? How does it feel during a tip cut on the target, on the monster grade target? Hit here. First frame, second frame. In the second frame, it goes through already. But compared to the classic, it just merely exiting the target. So you will feel more resistance there. It did not go through the target as clearly on the second frame as the classic does. Now, you may ask, why? Why would it be like this? It has the highest tip speed before hitting the targets, which is true. Why didn't it go through better than classic did? Classic did. It is because of the length of the blade. You see, the length of the blade is the longest here with the Ultra. And when you have a long blade, of course your tip speed is high due to the circumference distance traveled. However, it also means it will lose the speed very quickly because the resistance spot is very far from your hands. That means it will have a bigger leverage to stop your blade. The longer your blade is, the more resistance you will feel that, because the target has more leverage against your cutting motion. So when it hit the target, you can see the blade actually flex quite wildly. This flexing is not caused by blade alignment issue. It was caused by the speed loss inside the target, the sudden appearance of the tremendous resistance, causing the blade to flex around and still cutting through. See, if it was a blade alignment issue, it would not have cut through. It would have just bent your blade badly, but it was not a blade alignment issue. It was a resistance issue. The resistance caused the blade to bend around, not letting the blade through. So you can see that the Ultra spent slightly more time inside the target than the classic did. So that's why the classic feels the best when cutting through substantial targets with a tip, and Ultra and compact less so. And in this video, you can see how I review my own cutting footage. How do I explain the feeling I experienced during the cutting that the classic cuts the best, through how much speed was spent inside the target and how much speed was lost inside the target. And I actually look into tip speed traveled as well as acceleration in the cut, and the speed of hitting the target and the reach in hitting the target. So there are a lot of things I considered in designing Supreme Cutters and the German battle sword that many people may not realize how much I went through to come to those design conclusions. Okay, thank you for watching, and hope I didn't bore you out with all these trivial details. Okay, see ya, bye bye.